Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we've got a little bit of an interesting one, and today we're going to be actually talking about who takes um, Conqueror and who takes Lethal Tempo, because there's been a lot of confusion, and ever since like patch 3.2, I've seen so many people taking the wrong runes on the wrong champions. I don't know if they're testing it in ranked or what, but I see so many like Conquer users taking Lethal Tempo, people taking Kraken Snare, etc. So today we're going to be covering who exactly takes what. So it's in a tier list kind of format. I'll explain how this is meant to be read in a moment. I of course did this on Mad Labs. Anyways, before we get into that, of course I decided to do this for two main reasons. The first reason is that, as I said, a lot of people are taking the wrong runes, and I wanted to make a video to remedy that. And number two, I didn't really see anybody else creating a similar kind of video, so I thought that I'd take it upon myself to, of course, make such a video for the community. So before I get into the actual meat of the video discussing all the champions, first up, I'm going to say that I didn't include every single champion in the game on this tier list, because there are so many champions that obviously don't take Conqueror or Lethal Tempo. Think like a lot of the mages wouldn't take Conqueror or Lethal Tempo because they would probably take Electrocute or Airy, that kind of thing. So I didn't include every single champion on the tier list, but I included almost all the fighters and basically every single marksman on the tier list, who are the two main classes where you normally would have the debate of which one you should take. Other classes like tanks and mages I didn't really put on here at all, because you wouldn't really have this problem of which one to take. So before we get into the actual discussion on who takes what itself, first up I'm going to just very briefly cover what Conqueror and Lethal Tempo does. So Conqueror, of course, stacks up to 5 times. Each stack gives you a little bit of AD or AP, and when you reach maximum stacks, which is 5, you will gain bonus adaptive damage. Depending on whether you're melee or ranged, you'll gain a little bit of bonus adaptive damage. However, something to take note of is that Conqueror can be stacked with abilities. So for example, if you are an Olaf and you hit someone with your axe, or you hit someone with your E, you will stack Conqueror, but Lethal Tempo is only stacked by basic attacks. So basically, abilities do not stack Lethal Tempo. So what does Lethal Tempo do exactly? Lethal Tempo stacks up to 6 times. Each stack gives you a little bit of attack speed, and when you reach maximum stacks being 6, you will gain 30% bonus attack speed. So as I just mentioned, you can only stack Lethal Tempo with basic attacks, and you cannot stack it with abilities. So by and large, in general, Conqueror is going to be better for short trades, especially in lane where you can stack it really easily with abilities, and then you can get off a couple of attacks with Conqueror, whereas Lethal Tempo is really good in long drawn out fights. Generally, team fights are the ones that are going to be more long and drawn out. In lane, sometimes you do have longer fights, but in general, in lane, Conqueror is better. In general, in team fights, Lethal Tempo is better, of course dependent on the champion. And in general, most marksmen will prefer Lethal Tempo, and in general, most fighters slash bruisers, wherever you want to call them, will prefer Conqueror. So we're going to get into quickly how do you read this tier list, and then we're going to get into each of the individual champions. So in the S plus tier is basically the champions who always want to take Lethal Tempo. Alright, so to indicate that, the first champion, Ashe, you can see there, Lethal Tempo symbol. She wants to take Lethal Tempo, and so does everybody else in the S plus tier. In the S tier are champions who prefer to take Lethal Tempo, but can situationally take Conqueror, or Conqueror is still a viable rune on them. Now, this is not to say that Conqueror isn't viable on the S plus tier champions, but on the S plus tier champions, 99% of the time you want to take Lethal Tempo, whereas on the S tier champions, maybe I would say 80% of the time you want to take Lethal Tempo, but the other 20% you still want to take Conqueror. Now, in the A tier, we have champions who can take Conqueror, who prefer to take Conqueror, but can take Lethal Tempo viably as well. And on the B tier, we have champions who want to take Conqueror or something else and don't want to take Lethal Tempo. So basically, think of it as a spectrum. People on the S plus tier want to take Lethal Tempo and doesn't want to take Conqueror, and people in the B tier, or champions in the B tier, want to take Conqueror and don't want to take Lethal Tempo. So it's a spectrum from S plus to B tier. On C tier, we have champions that don't want to take Conqueror and don't want to take Lethal Tempo. And I've only included the marksman for this just to avoid any confusion. And not every other champion in the game that you don't see on this tier list will be here. Because for some reason, I've seen strange things. I've seen Lethal Tempo Varus's, I've seen Conqueror Senna's, you know, that sort of deal. So, hey, it's just there. So we're going to cover C tier first. Varus, generally lethality best build, so you want to take Airy. Senna, generally you either take Fleet, which is now nerfed, or you normally take Grasp of the Undying. Jhin is a little bit of a debate. I just recently released that Jhin video where I showed off Conqueror Jhin. But so far for now, I believe the best rune for Jhin should most likely be Fleet Footwork, and Kraken Slayer and Conqueror are viable as well. But I'm not putting Jhin in the B tier because he's not someone who wants to take Conqueror over all other runes. And something else I did not yet mention is that I did not actually really factor Kraken Slayer into this tier list, because basically, as far as I know for now, only Lucian and Akshan can viably take Kraken Slayer. Even with the nerfed Conqueror, I believe that the two of them are the only two who can viably take Kraken Slayer and perform well with the Kraken Slayer itself. So without further ado, we're gonna jump straight into the S plus tier, which is the tier of people who only want to take Conqueror. And I'm gonna explain why for all of these champions, but try not to spend too much time. So Ashe is really simple. She wants the Lethal Tempo. I'm not sure if I said S plus was for Conqueror, but if I did say that, I mean S plus is for people who want to take Lethal Tempo. I tend to mix up these two runes when I'm speaking for some reason. Sometimes I'm thinking about one of them and I say the other one. Anyway, S plus tier, as indicated by the Ashe, are people who always want to take Lethal Tempo. So Ashe, why does she want to take Lethal Tempo? It's really easy to explain. Basically, she wants to stack up her Q. Then she uses her Q and spam attacks to slow someone. So with more attack speed, you can get off your enhanced auto attacks faster, slow them, and they can escape, and just destroy them basically. Vayne, basically, her whole kit revolves around proccing her 3-hit passive. So Lethal Tempo, more attack speed, more procs of her silver bolts. So more true damage, more damage overall. Lovely. Jinx, her whole playstyle revolves around her getting a kill, getting excited, getting bonus attack speed, and blasting everybody. With the Lethal Tempo, she blasts people even faster, so when you get a reset, or even before you get a reset, you'll be blasting people at a rapid rate. You get a reset, and you just blast people so fast that they can't really run, they can't really escape, they just die instantly. That's sort of the deal. Now, Yasuo, Tryndamere, and Jax are the three like sort of fighter-ish champions who want to take Lethal Tempo. Now, why? Because basically, on Yasuo, when you build like 2 to 3 items and you start attacking really quickly, you can lifesteal a lot, at the same time do a lot of damage. Yasuo's 3-item power spike is normally going to be the Stormrazor into Bork into IE. The Bork sometimes can be replaced by Wit's End, but that's generally the build for Yasuo. When you hit 3 items with the Lethal Tempo, you shred people really quickly with your like auto attacks, in addition to, of course, all of your other attacks. You know, Yasuo is sort of a melee ADC. Now, Tryndamere and Jax, basically, you mainly want to take Lethal Tempo for both the 1v1 fights where you bonk people really fast, and also if you have it stacked up and you've killed someone, you go onto a tower, you can push towers really quickly. So that's why they like to take Lethal Tempo. Kayle, of course, auto attack focused champion that really comes online at 3 items plus and level 15. Basically, it's sort of like a hybrid ADC where she does a whole ton of auto attack damage, so Lethal Tempo, more attack speed, more damage. Simple. So next up, we have the S tier. So the S tier is champions who are better with Lethal Tempo, but still really good with Conqueror. So you can viably take Conqueror on them, but they are probably better with Lethal Tempo. Now, Xayah, Caitlyn, and Kai'Sa are those 3 ADCs. So Xayah, more attack speed allows you to proc your passive more quickly, especially Rune and Hurricane allows you to proc passive on 3 people more quickly. But if you are going into a full squishy comp, you're going to assassinate people, Conqueror is still better because you can stack it up with your abilities really easily, and you do more damage to single targets with the Conqueror build. With Caitlyn, basically, Lethal Tempo, both Caitlyn and Xayah, with Lethal Tempo, they're way better in team fights with a lot more attack speed, but in lane, with Conqueror, they're still better because Conqueror, as I said, gives you better short trades, and with Zaya as well, when you get the pullback with the feathers and all that, you get really strong trades with Conqueror in lane. Same goes with Caitlyn, but overall, Lethal Tempo gives you the better scaling into the late game team fights, which is why Lethal Tempo is generally better on the both of them. And next up we have Master Yi. Now I'm gonna be honest here. Master Yi is the champion I'm the least confident in this entire tier list, because I don't actually play Master Yi almost at all, except for the two times actually that he was broken. So with Master Yi, I've checked the top builds, the top 10 players who play Master Yi, and out of the 10 of them, basically I believe 6 of them take Lethal Tempo, 2 of them take Conqueror, and 2 of them take Kraken Slayer. So just from that statistic, I'm gonna assume that Lethal Tempo is better on Master Yi, but Conqueror obviously is still viable as well, which is why I put him in that S tier. So that is basically why he's there. I can't really justify a reason. I mean, of course, Master Yi is champion focused on auto attacks and also focused on his Q. So I can see why with auto attacks, more attack speed equals more damage, which makes sense. But Conqueror also gives you a lot of damage, so I'm just gonna assume based on the Master Yi top 10 Master Yi means that Lethal Tempo is probably better. But Conqueror is still viable, of course. Now A tier. So A tier are the champions who prefer to take Conqueror, but Lethal Tempo is still viable. So first one and the only ADC in that tier list is going to be Tristana. So Tristana, in my opinion, does better with Conqueror because her main damage revolves around charging up her bomb and getting a kill and jumping back out. So with the Conqueror, you can actually manage to full stack the Conqueror when you explode her bomb, but with Lethal Tempo, when you max stack the Lethal Tempo, you'll already be jumping out and disengaging. Of course, there are situations where you do reset non-stop in a long team fight, but by and large, unless you find that those kind of dream reset city team fights, you're going to be in a case where Conqueror is generally going to be better because you can get off more damage with your bomb on a single target with the Conqueror and then reset and jump out. Or even if you reset and jump to the next person, having a full stack Conqueror is still not that bad. So I still think Conqueror is better on Tristana. Now next up we have Xin Zhao and Shyvana. I think both of them are about the same. Both of them, their damage comes from both skills and auto attack. So for Xin Zhao, he EW then starts auto attacking. For Shyvana, she sort of ease you and starts auto attacking. So both of them start off with spells, then they move on to auto attacks, which is why it is still viable for them to go for Lethal Tempo, because in a long drawn out fight, they can still make good use of that Lethal Tempo. But in my opinion, they're not really like attack speed style focused champions, and in my opinion, they stack up Conqueror way more easily, especially because they start off their combos with their skills, and you can get overall, I believe, more value from the Conqueror on both of them. So now we move on to Olaf and Irelia, who unlike Xin Zhao and Shyvana, the two of them are actually very auto attack focused. So with Irelia, you go in on an enemy, you use your skills to full stack your passive, then you basically auto attack people non-stop. And with Olaf, you basically run straight at their faces, you E them, and you basically spam your auto attacks until you can E them again, basically. So they're really auto attack focused champions. However, much like Xin Zhao and Shyvana, they both start off their combo with skills. Like with Irelia, you would E, Q, Alt, Q, or in the other direction. Basically, you would use 4 abilities, and maybe you W as well. You can full stack the Conqueror before you even basic attack once. Of course, you're supposed to basic attack in between your skills to proc your Sheen from your Divine Thunder or your Triforce, but the point I'm trying to make here is that you full stack your Conqueror way before you full stack your Lethal Tempo. So in my opinion, the fact that you stack your Conqueror so much more easily than the Lethal Tempo still makes it better on Irelia and Olaf to take Conqueror. But of course, if you are in a very long fight, if like for example you're against, like, if you're fighting like a tanky champion like a Garen, or you're in a very long team fight, Lethal Tempo can still bring you a lot of value, which is why I still think it's very viable. Now with Diana, she's generally considered a burst mage, which is why I think that Conqueror is better, because when you go in, like, you normally, what you do is you will Q, E in, ulti, probably E again, and press Q. So you use all your abilities first, then you would start auto-attacking the enemy. So normally for Diana, you legitimately normally have a full stack Conqueror before you even start stacking Lethal Tempo. But yet again, same deal as the rest. In a very long drawn-out team fight, after you full combo, you would be only using your basic attacks because all your abilities are down. That is where Lethal Tempo can come in handy. But really, as a burst mage, Diana honestly prefers the Conqueror by a ton compared to the Lethal Tempo, but I'm just putting it here because Lethal Tempo Diana, you have to admit that it is viable, just that it really is not preferred. Now we move on to the B tier, which are champions who basically only want to take Conqueror and don't want to take Lethal Tempo. Of course, the two exceptions to this, or three exceptions to this, is Akshan and Lucian can viably take Kraken Slayer as well, and I think Kraken Slayer is probably better than Conqueror for the two of them. And on Akali, you can actually take Fleet Footwork as well, which is kind of competing with Conqueror as her best rune. Now, it's a 50-50 between the two of them. But for the rest of these champions, you basically can only take Conqueror, and Lethal Tempo really isn't viable at all. So first up, we have MF, who basically goes through lethality, doesn't need attack speed because she doesn't build crit any longer. Draven just wants AD, doesn't care about attack speed. Same goes with Lucian and Akshan. They rather have AD, don't care too much about attack speed. Corki as well doesn't care about attack speed. Ezreal doesn't care about attack speed as well. Graves cannot even gain attack speed because it basically just decreases his reload time. So Graves cannot benefit from Lethal Tempo at all, much like Jhin. And the rest of the champions are basically all the fighter champions who basically are not very auto attack focused. They're more focused on skills. So Vi generally will use all her skills before she even starts auto attacking, but unlike someone like Xin Zhao and Shyvana, I really don't think that Vi is going to make any use of Lethal Tempo compared to the two of them, because she really doesn't do that much sustained damage with her auto attack. She generally, after she full combos, she just tanks a little bit and just gets out because she's just the team engage / tank, so I really don't think Lethal Tempo helps her at all. Set also doesn't do too much auto attacking. His main damage comes from, of course, his Haymaker and his ultimate. Of course, he does auto attack a little bit with his Q or in between his combo, but overall, not a lot of auto attacking. Wukong, same deal. His damage comes from his ultimate, his Q, not a lot of auto attacking. Riven as well. Her main damage comes from her skills and her combo, not a lot of auto attacking. Same goes with Renekton, Pantheon. Not a lot of auto attacking at all, mostly skills. Now Lee Sin does use a lot of skills, but also auto attacks a decent amount. But honestly, he is sort of a more closer to an assassin than a long drawn out fighter. So he normally just bursts people down really quickly, and he's not gonna be in fights that last very long for him to make use of Lethal Tempo. So it doesn't quite make sense. Now Darius, Jarvan, Fiora, Akali, Jace, all the same deal. They all rely mainly on skills and they don't rely on auto attack. So Conqueror doesn't. Conqueror makes so much sense on them. Lethal Tempo doesn't make really much sense to them at all. And of course, C tier are the champions who cannot, or not cannot, but do not take Conqueror or Lethal Tempo. So there we have it. We've covered basically who takes what between Conqueror and Lethal Tempo. As a brief recap, S+ tier are the champions who only take Lethal Tempo. S tier, champions who prefer to take Lethal Tempo but can still take Conqueror. A tier, champions who prefer to take Conqueror, but also can viably take Lethal Tempo. And the B tier, champions who only take Conqueror and do not viably take Lethal Tempo. So there we have it. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you guys I hope this video helped you guys, and thank you for watching the video, and goodbye.